The future of talk is here.
Yeah.
Power 102 Digital.
Good afternoon. This is Hard Talk, Power 102 Digital Wednesday. In Trinidad and Tobago, we call it Ash Wednesday. And today's feature is hosted by Farid Ali. Special guests line up here. And of course, let me say welcome to Dr. Tanyuk, who will be co-hosting with Farid. Good afternoon, Farid. How are you?
Good afternoon. Uh, Good afternoon to our viewers and all listeners. Um, I want to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Pelham Goddard for accompanying me this afternoon. With Dr. Pelham Goddard is no other than Dr. Richard Tangyok. Dr. Tangyok would have been a former Panorama official. He would have judged Panorama in previous years. And Dr. Pelham Goddard would have won 4 titles at a Panorama level large band finals in previous years. So I have an experienced lineup of 2 doctors. I'm the only dunce amongst the group, and no other than arranger extraordinaire, Mr. Duvon Stewart. Thank you so much, Mr. Stewart, for gracing us with your presence and for sharing your time. I know that you would have had a hectic 6 weeks leading into Saturday's finale. Tell us something. How was your carnival? How did you spend the last 2 days, meaning Sunday, Monday into Tuesday, having had such a rigorous practice campaign with
Good afternoon to all the listeners at Paul 102, and thanks very much for having me in the program this afternoon. Thanks to special good afternoon to you, Dr. Pelham Goddard, Dr. Richard Tanyuk. I had a very, very nice, cool, laid-back carnival time spent, with friends of the BPTT Renegades, both in the Panyard and on the road on Tuesday. I didn't stay that long on the road. I was trying to be young and reveling with everybody, but I couldn't take the sun. But yet still, I was there. And the sun was kind of hectic, and I took time to see friends who was reveling with other bands, and I bounced up Dr. Pelham Goddard and his wife. So that's, we took a nice little moment, hug one another and console one another and congratulated one another. But again, the 2 days, the Monday and Tuesday, was well spent. So I'm home just chilling out and just back to normal schedule.
Okay. Well, we have to start by saying congratulations on your band's performance. This is your 4th Panorama title.
Yes.
And it's
4th large band championship.
4th large band, and by my estimation, that would have started in the year 2018.
Yes.
We would have had 2 years lost to the COVID situation. So in reality, it's 4 Panorama titles in 7 years. But given that we didn't have 2 tournaments or 2 competitions,
4 and 5.
Yeah, in real terms, it's 4 and 5 years.
Yeah.
One could only wonder. We left to ponder
what was happening.
Had it not been for the 2 years of COVID that we lost, we might have been looking at a higher tally. Congratulations nonetheless.
Thanks very much.
For the purpose of the interview, forgive me for referring to you as Duvon. Tell us how you feel in this moment, having gotten to that point where you have 4 titles now. You're arranging for an orchestra that has had a track record of success, but after you lost the venerable Dr. Jit Samaru, it took a period for Renegades to get back into winning circle. By my estimation, it took some 21 years. And yes. Then you didn't. Your success was a process, as you would say. You came 3rd on 5 occasions, which is 2013 into 2017, and then you won in 2018. Yep. So you would have not. Your success was not instant, but you build and you built something at Renegades. Now that you have a strong pyramid in terms of the foundation has been laid. Walk us through that journey briefly in terms of where that time period where you were coming 3rd on successive occasions before you got to the point where you started winning. How did you motivate the band and motivate yourself in getting to the point where you finally achieve and then began to build on that?
2012 was the year when I came to the band to work as the arranger for Panorama. But being a member of the band since 1988, 89, a relationship has been built with me, Devon Stewart, and the players back then, who are some of the players that they are still in the band. So a level of knowing me, what I could give as a human being, was related to from top to bottom, and that relationship stemmed on onto working under Dr. Jet Samaru, getting the opportunities to do little stage side music for the band, and before even becoming the arranger in 2012, I was approached on two occasions. I think it's 2006 and 2009. I declined because I felt I wasn't ready for the band on a whole. Because to fill that shoes of Dr. Chet Summer wasn't really a easy fit, so I really wanted to mentally get myself in that state of mind. And eventually I got the band in 2012, and I started to work around the point where I want to do something to continue the legacy of BPTT Renegades. And one of the biggest challenges that I had at the point in time was that the band did not fully gotten over the loss of Dr. Jet Samaru as its musical director and arranger on a Panorama level. He was still alive and he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So when you hear Renegades under Jet Samaru, there's a style, there's a song that the band has, which was so unique for a long period of time. I believe since 1970 or 72 or something, when he came into the band as the arranger. So that unique song and style grew into the minds and hearts of the listeners and the players that came through that generation or that decade period, 3 or 4 decade periods that they had working with Dr. Jet Samaru. So when I got the band, it was a very, very difficult one for me to stamp Devon Stewart brand, song, and style into the band, but yet still the band wanted to maintain the song and style of BPTT Renegades, which was something a bit challenging, to the point where I had was to not be me and replicate Dr. Jet Samaru in terms of doing things like how I thought he would have done it, or have the band singing like how the band would have been doing it. And it was just getting me to one point, and it was never really challenging me to get over the hurdle, because I've never gotten the opportunity to voice who Devon Stewart is in the creative sense where music is concerned as the arranger. But whilst working with Amokuro and BPTT Renegades, I was working with Panelders and all these different bands, and results was coming along. Everybody getting to realize that the way how I do music for Renegades, it wasn't the way I was doing music for Pan Elders or Sour East Side or Ebony and stuff like that. They was hearing something very different from Renegades. They was hearing the band Renegades, but not Devon Stewart. But you will hear the other bands that Devon Stewart was working with, you were hearing Devon Stewart, because these bands in the past never really had an arranger to say, well, yes, this is the man, or this is the label, or this is the song and style that this band had from the pre-person that was there. And it was about 2015 when I really got that opportunity to shed light onto stamping my style and my song and my brand, when I got the opportunity to arrange for the band for the ICP Panorama competition, where one of the rules stated that we could have used a song from back in the day, Some bands chose to do songs from in the past, and some Panorama songs from in the past. And the band said, well, yo, Jet is not there anymore, so why don't you do something on your own? We give you the opportunity to do something on your own. And that's when I did Like a Boss by Marshall Montana, and the band came third. And everybody said, yeah, we liking this. It's something nice. We could work with this, So I then got free reign to be myself with the band in 2015. So now I'm in the process of trying to marinate and to marriage some of the ideas and some of the fusion abilities of me when I was traveling, learning from different musicians, not just in the steel pan genre, but holistically while being in France. Guys like Richard Bona and Yusuf Dawes, Salif Keita, Mario Kanaj, musicians from Sake Show, Ibrahim Malou from Israel, and stuff like that. I've been around these individuals, and I was like literally in a master camp, a master boot camp school, learning from these brothers, just rocking back and just trying to listen to what they were doing and see how they was going about bringing music to the table. And every time I come back from France, where I go to teach at the University of Nantes, I come back with a different approach in how I used to treat things and do things. And with that happening, I used to marriage it with doing BPTT Renegades. I have seen Panorama from way back in the day, and this is just my opinion, I sense there was a monotony in how we present the music. No disrespect to none of the arrangers, because everybody is creative in their own way. And I wanted to be me. I wanted to do me. So me bringing my new style and my new song and brand into the game is just like an addition to what was there before. For example, you may want to learn how to play steel pan music or jazz, and you go to the store and you see a book, Learn How to Play Jazz by Oscar Peterson. You take that book, you read it from chapter 1 to chapter 10, and everything on all the information that you receive from that book, you, the individual who have been recipient to that book, everything that you do from that book is like Oscar Peterson. So it now leaves you to get inside your mind and your whole aura to dig deep to find what is in there for you, creative-wise, to bring onto the table. So that people may have a problem with the style that Duvon Stewart have. I can't please everybody, but this is how Duvon Stewart feel into this music. And with that being said and done, BPTT Renegades appreciated what I was doing. They understood what I was doing. They understood the concept that I took in bringing music and treated it like theater, making it so relatable that every arrangement that came from 2015 until Saturday gone was like a storytelling music. They could relate to everything that was done, so everybody had a visual idea of what Duvon Stewart's style is in arranging music. But it took a couple years well to get that into motion. And I really want to thank the players for believing in the process, man, and also them.
Right. Duvon, you have a very unique way of working. For those of us who come to the yards, we would observe that you use a microphone and you involve the audience participation, those who attend the yards. You invite them into your space, so to speak, in terms of introducing that choral element where they respond in terms of a voice in the chorus. They sing a line, in other words.
If the song permits to have a sing along, I interact. I make the crowd be interactive with it, but if it doesn't,
Right. Clearly, the chemistry that you've developed with the band in terms of your players, it's evident too in terms of the camaraderie, in terms of your players relate to you and how you relate to them. It's not like you're a principal bowling at school children. Clearly, there's a respect and it's mutual.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone looking at your performance on Saturday, and when I say look, I know we come to Panorama to hear, but Edwin Pouchet said people come to also see Panorama. So in observing what is happening, there is that element of theater. You emerge from within the bowels of the band while the band began to perform. So, and that in itself had an effect on the crowd and the audience. So you know how to work a crowd, you know how to work your magic in terms of getting people to involve in what the band is doing. It's not just about, you're coming there to choreograph and leave.
Yeah.
That is an element that we haven't seen with arrangers in the past. Dr. Goddard, you were there in the past. You've won 4 titles in the earlier years. How do you feel about the issue of, or the entry of presentation and theater in the music now? Do you think it's a good development, or it's a distraction from music?
First protocol. I say, let me say good afternoon to Duvon, and good afternoon to Dr. Tanyuk.
And good afternoon, Dr. Pelham.
Right. And yourself. Now, I don't know, that started really and truly, Clive Bradley, used to stand up in front of the band and do all his, used to do that. He's the first one I see conducting a band. so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I remember Pat Bishop and them find he was so unique. And they interview him and he say, I'm not conducting no band, no. I just having my time myself a good time. You know? And I am choreographic. Yes, some of it could be good. Right? But it had some arrangement I never see in front of band. Just Samaroon then used to be in front of the band.
Yeah.
And up to now I see Smooth Edward to be in front of the band.
Never.
You know?
See him.
So I know if that the players too use choreography within the playing, like also when they start to play, you see their foot movements, and they, you know what I mean, and they use certain kind of choreography in front of there. But I don't know if theater per se, it look good on the crowd. The crowd will like that, but I don't know if that put a thing on the judges or whatever. You know what I mean? You know.
Dr. Tangyok, you would have judged at this level before. What is your view on the marriage of theater and the music? How does that influence you as a judge? How do you feel when you're sitting there to adjudicate, and
Well,
someone like Yvonne emerges from within the band and the crowd goes wild?
right. It's a good question. I think judges are looking at the criteria presented to them from Pantrin Bagel, and there's nothing on the score sheet for theatrics, pyrotechnics, choreography. There's nothing. Obviously, the theatrics will sway the crowd, and the crowd response might sway some judges. But if the judges are paying attention to the criteria that are presented to them by Pantrin Bagel, there are no marks for theatrics. There are just no marks for it. Now, I want to go back to Mr. Stewart. Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon, Dr. Goddard. And congratulations to you both. Well done. Really
Thanks.
well done. I was in the North Stand. I couldn't afford to go in the Grandstand. So I didn't hear it from where the judges heard it, but I heard everything. So, Mr. Stewart, you were talking a few minutes ago about finding your voice within Renegades and being allowed to express yourself. So, you know, this is a very interesting topic because when we speak to pan arrangers about this, breaking out of the mold, not doing the regular formula that we've heard year after year after year, what we hear from some arrangers is, well, it's a competition. And if we don't conform to the expected form, structure, tropes, what we normally hear, some arrangers feel they're going to be disadvantaged. So I want to ask you both, do you think that the panorama as it stands now encourages creativity or stifles creativity?
Well, I just always say sometimes you might win a panorama. I win panorama, right? But at the end of the day, it wasn't my creative. It more or less is what the judges wanted to hear, right? The judges will say, in that section, so and so and so, you're gonna bring out some more of the middle parts and so on. And my arrangement might cost more of the front line parts. Or my voicing mightn't suit what they want to hear, you know? And most times when you get a score from the preliminaries and you have to go back and do what the judges say. Well, then again, it's not your arrangement. It becomes the judges' arrangement. That is my point, you know?
And Mr. Stewart, what is your opinion?
I totally agree with what Dr. Palamgoda said. Very, I reckon that this question came up, you know, because after BPTT Renegades performed on Saturday, I came back home and I was watching the Panorama on television. And the question was touted to Mr. Leon Smooth Edwards, and one of the presenters asked him what was the work done between semi-final and finals in terms of score sheets and what were you able to achieve the things that you were doing. And his response was, I've never read a score sheet before.
I know.
Response was, I've never read a score sheet before. So in
Bradley said
my
the
mind,
same thing.
it's like you hit or you miss. Because
Yeah.
as Dr. Pelham Goddard said, when we now come with our creative ideas and building the
Yeah.
song for 7 minutes and 30 seconds, close to 8 minutes, we present it to a judge who is listening for the first time,
Mm.
which brings to the point where the competition round comes to a conclusion and a score sheet comes out. As Dr. Pelham Goddard says, that arrangement is not yours anymore
Anymore.
because the judges will tell you, I believe you could have changed this part. I believe you could have put in a
Yeah.
part like this. Say, no, the tough judges do that. I feel you should have put in a crescendo here. So I believe the creativity from the arranger to the event is being stifled by what
Yeah.
the judges are putting
Uh,
on this score sheet for us to know, because we only own that song until the end of the preliminary round. From
you
the
see,
time
not continue. What happened to the members of the band? Sometimes the members of your band too. My creative, like, what did judges say? What did judges say? When they say we had to change this part and so on. And if you, there is a kind of pure pressure on the arranger. You
arranger,
want
yeah,
to go and change. Sometimes you go and change a whole part that doesn't mean anything. You change the whole tune. You take out the best part of the song to prove the judges. You know?
and that best part in your mind,
Yeah.
your arranger might say, well, yeah, this is one of my best parts. I
Yeah.
love this. And they could tell you at minutes so and so, this part of music. So when you go back now, timeline wise, it now
Yeah.
comes to the point. This is my best part of the song. And the judge is telling me you could change it, take it
Yeah.
out. Like again, it stifles us. It stifles us. And that's a
Very
very
well.
for us.
Thank you for being honest. And nobody could say sour grapes because you win the Panorama. But you're brave enough to say it. You're brave enough to say it. So I just had a thought, and I want to know what you gentlemen, both of you, think about this. What if it was not a competition? So we're not awarding marks. We'll still award money prizes for showing up,
Yeah.
so that your creativity is not stifled because you're not conforming to what the judges want. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, in the steel band world, they tend to be the only thing could create a situation with a show, with a competition. Because if they don't have a competition, they will choose certain bands to go. And when there is band that they don't choose, will say, why they choose so and so? Why they choose Exodus to go and not, you know?
No,
So
no.
it
I'm not
tends
saying,
to.
wait, hang on. I'm not saying Pantrin Bego or some other body is going to choose bands. We're saying we're going to have a pan festival,
Yeah.
right? Whatever band wants to come, these are the parameters, 8 minutes, whatever. You could play what you want. This is the date. Everybody come. Nobody's selecting the bands. Then there's no competition. Then there's no restriction on the arranger to conform to what a judging panel wants. Isn't that going to help the progress of?
Yeah. I would always say something like that. If you watch Panorama, very good. The infrastructure for you to put together a band on the stage, all those racks, all the wheels, all the pan blended, all the tenors. You're talking about one band will have 40 something tenor pans, all the players, all the everything, right? They put all the money. It's cost them money to put there. So it's really good to know, all right, we want this competition and we're going to get back some money out of it for the infrastructure of being there. The arranger have to be paid, the tuners have to be paid, and not for a tuner to blend a whole steel band is thousands of dollars. You know, so but somebody have to be paid for getting something, you know. That is my idea. So the infrastructure wouldn't worth going there for just a show. They want to they like competition in the pan world. You know.
Dr.
Mr.
Richard,
Stewart, what is your opinion about it?
I just want to add something to this, right? This whole thing, right, in terms of really the judging aspect is concerned. We had World Steel Band Festival music steel band competitions where each band had the opportunity to play a song with a score sheet provided. So when this score sheet is being provided to the judges and we play that music that is on the score sheet, why doesn't the judge tell us in bar so and so change that part? But yet still in Panorama, there's no score sheet and we are speaking from inside. We the arrangers. Why are they restricting us now as indie creatives doing such? I believe
Do you want an honest answer from me? Or is that
if we do Panorama music with a score sheet, fine. Will it still be the judges will tell you, I don't like how this part sung and I don't like how this, you could tweak this and change this to this. But a song composed by Bach and Beethoven on a score sheet, no judge will come and tell you to change this note or to change this phrase that is on the score sheet. Well, and I believe if you put Panorama music on the score sheet for the judges to articulate and to come to a judgment with, which is written in front of them, I believe it will be treated the same way how we treated Steel Pan Music Festival. Am I wrong? Am I right? Or...
You have a point, because in festival, when you take I composed a song and won a festival with it, right, Romy? And I had to compose and notate every piece of music that was in that composition, plus the rhythm, right? All the pans and all the drumming parts and everything, right? But you had to play accurate. It have dynamics. And that people in Panorama don't like dynamics. They say too much dynamics. All they playing music for Queen's Hall and all that. But in other music, it have crescendo, you have diminuendo, you have forte, fortissimo, all of that in other music. You understand? But they don't run that in Panorama music. For whatever the word is. You know, you can play a song for 8 minutes. For 8 minutes and have one dynamic going right through. You know? I would like
to challenge you on that point. I would like to challenge you on that point. Because as one of our guests said some weeks ago, because there are marks on the score sheet for dynamics, sometimes dynamics are inserted just to get those marks, which may not lend itself to the tune or the moment. So I will push back on that. I think if a band chooses to do some change of dynamics here or there, it should be organic. And it should not be because you are vying for 10 marks. Because if you don't play any dynamics, you're not getting any mark, right? So from what I heard on Saturday, I'm not going to call which band, but there was a lot of dynamics going on in some bands. And I found some of it was quite contrived. I just didn't think it fit. No. So I am not of that opinion that you must include dynamics. And the problem is that there are 10 marks awarded for dynamics.
Let me see the score. I want to see what he scored. Yeah, a few times.
I had that issue too with Panorama this year from some of the judges was like, we need to hear more dynamics, insert more dynamics.
Yeah. Wow. It have on the score sheet have things like reharmonization, melodic development, harmonic development, and all that. But as a arranger doing a song, according to the one, your vibe is a vibe. Your vibe is to get that feeling you have into you, right? On the instrument. Now, remember in the pan, I remember a judge right at time. She said, I love the part when you had your G-pans play that solo. and we tell them, but we didn't have no G-Pan. You know?
Okay, so Dr. Goddard, you're broaching a subject that we should talk about. We should talk about it. So it is about the competency of the judges, right? So hang on a second. I just want to say it, and then you guys can chime in. We hear it all the time that a majority of steel band players out there, unless they win, if they win, they're very happy with the judges' result. But if they don't win, they're not so happy. So let's talk about the process of selecting judges. What should Pan Trinbago do in selecting judges? Because I've heard stories like you just mentioned. You know, somebody said to a band once, you should have gone into the minor key, but it was there. They just didn't hear it. So it speaks to the competency of the judges. What should Pan Trinbago do in selecting judges?
Well, I never even know who the judge is. You know,
you didn't hear the announcement? You didn't hear the announcement on Saturday who were the judges?
Well, only on that, no. I'm not hearing that because I outside, and when the Panorama start, right? I outside in the road or somewhere else, and the Panorama is starting on the radio, on the TV, and they make that announcement in the savannah. But apart from that, it's only when they come to the Pania, then I might see who judging, and I don't even know them. I know Richard Pierre. That's all about who I know.
Mr. Stewart.
Sir, doctor.
Mr. Stewart,
I don't know what are the criterias for having a judge become a judge for Panorama. I don't know if it's something that they do publicly to invite the general public to come to do audition to become a judge. But I found for many like about a 5-7 year window period, we are continuously seeing one group of individuals only, you know, and I believe that there are individuals who out there that are qualified and competent to do what they have to do, in making sure that we have judges to judge the event, you know. But I don't really have a problem with where the judges and thing is concerned. You know, the only thing that I have a problem with is where does the 0.5 comes from?
Yeah, that.
where that 0.5 thing comes from.
I'm glad, Mr. Clary.
You know,
let's talk about that. So, for our listening audience, everybody may not know that when the judges put down their individual scores on their sheet and they sign that sheet, it's taken away from you. The judges individually have no idea how the scores are going to turn out. So they don't know that it's going to turn out to be a tie for first place. They don't know that. Now, if you're judging and your spread of marks between, let's say, the top 5 bands is very narrow, 1 point, which is a little bit ridiculous. We could talk about that if you want. But if, let's say, you heard a band and you gave them 280, well, let's say 88, and then you heard another band and it is slightly better in your opinion, you might think, well, okay, I have to put them between this band and this band, and that's where the half mark comes in. So it's not that the issue is that the judges don't know how it's going to turn out, right? But so let's go back to the issue of criteria for selecting judges. I want to posit an idea, and I want to know what you guys think. So in order to determine whether this person is competent to judge Panorama, they should be given a test before the Panorama, before they're asked to judge. They're given a recording to listen to, and they're asked to make comments on what they hear. And based on those comments, then the selection process happens. And you can only hear it once. You cannot, because this is the reality of Panorama. You hear the tune once, and you have to make comments. What do you think about that?
No, I'm glad that you mentioned about the tune once. Our arranger takes about 4 weeks, 5 weeks to put a tune together. Right? I always wonder how somebody could come in 8 minutes and understand what you're doing about the song.
They
And
can't.
you see,
They
now
can't.
everybody know they might pass the exam and they know music and they this and that and the other. But this creative music is something, a different thing. Is either they ever produce a record, they ever produce an orchestra anywhere, they ever play in do a program in Queen's Hall. Find out what they do for during their musical career, or either just pass the exam in August and join Panorama in February. You had to know what they know. You had to know what they know.
So,
You
so
know,
I'm gonna add to my test for the adjudicator. You give them a theory test.
yeah.
I can identify this chord within this key.
Thank you.
See what they say, because if they don't have some knowledge of music theory and advanced theory,
Yeah.
how are they? You're absolutely right, Dr. Goddard. You know, when I used to judge Panorama, I found it extremely difficult. If you only have 3 bands, that's not so hard. 5 bands, not so hard. But after 10 bands,
Right.
you really have to be paying attention and you have to be making notes as it's by, because there's no way that hearing it once in the preliminaries that you could remember and understand anybody who says they do, as one guest told us a few weeks ago. I don't think they're being honest with themselves, and
This is,
so what I would also add before you comment is if the judges had a score of the piece, it would
I tried that already too.
greatly. It would help greatly. But we know some arrangements are not notated, some arrangements are not finished until the morning of. So having a score may not be practical, but it will help.
What about the lead sheet? What about the lead sheet for the song?
Well, a lead sheet is okay, but if we know the tune and we've listened to it before, which we should have, because this tune is being arranged. So the lead sheet is like the original, right? So, but that doesn't help us with the details of the arrangement.
You know what could help the judges too? They talk about the tests. Bring some panorama arrangement of the past and put them in a class and let them figure out what it is they hear in that arrangement.
Gentlemen, can I prefer a question to, especially to the judges and the selection of judges? Will it be possible that we can find arrangers who are not arranging for any band, or who we can term not biased to any of the bands? Because most of the arrangers that are not arranging, like the Sir Ray Holman, and they are not affiliated to any particular band, but we know they have worked with bands like Starlift, in particular Ray Holman, Starlift, and Skiffle, and Carib Tokyo thing. We know they have done that, but as is now, we are looking for a bunch of arrangers who are not affiliated to any of the steel bands and who would not show bias. Wouldn't that be the better option, to choose a bunch of those kind of people to be the judges in Panorama?
Well, I wouldn't use the word. You see, bias is a next problem. Is that a big word? What we're saying is the judges, what Mr. Tanu said, the judges have a right to know the music as such, that they know what it is they're hearing. Because we had Richard Pierre, not Richard Pierre, we had Mola Binodi Koto, she was a musician, and they had Brian already, right? She was a judge. What's her boy from Belmont again? He died the other day. Curtis Spear. Curtis Spear was a judge already. We had we used to use what is boy name from Tripoli? Hugh Board Judge Panorama, you know. So we had that kind of judges already in the Panorama. But we don't know who is these new bunch of arrangers now. They probably now come out of UTT or whatever. And they feel they qualify to be a judge. I don't know.
Dr. Goddard, is it that you're saying that if it is we include a previous winner who is no longer involved actively with a band to be on the panel, that may assist? Is it?
But that's a good idea to have Ray Holman and those kind of guys who are judging pan. It was always say so. You always
I could join to this because I've been working with bands all over the world in various Panorama competitions, and I could safely say one of the best juries of judges that I've ever worked for is in the UK Panorama. We have like Andy Norrell sit on the chair. We have two left. We have Andy Norrell. We have
I think Ray Judge Ray Holman.
Dr. Ray Holman is there.
Yeah.
And we have some top-notch steel pan musicians that sit on the chair to adjudicate the UK Panorama. And these guys are really they fit the bill by ticking all the boxes to sit at that chair to listen to, because they know
what they hear.
Steel pan operates. You know, some bands may have a Panorama song that carries a range of 6 to 8 different voices that happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. And it's sometimes we may ask ourselves, you know, when the music is being played by the band, sometimes the judges head down writing what they heard 10 or 15 seconds before, but yet still the music is still going, but you're missing what is happening, but you're still writing. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I saw guys like Ray Holman and two left from these guys judging. These guys sat there for 8 to 10 minutes directly without touching that pen and that paper, stood there and listening to the band. And when the band was finished, they went and do the deliberation by giving scores and stuff like that. You know? But everybody had the ways and style in doing things, you know. I just want to add a couple, a little idea that I came upon, you know, in regards to Panorama judging. There's another way in which I think, with all fairness, needs to take into consideration. There's no better way to do this in terms of the judging system, and it's called the rank system. Right? It's very simple, and the judges can keep doing exactly as what they are set to be doing when they sit to judge the competition. For example, let's work with 6 bands and 5 judges. When you're adding up the points after the final tally, you look at each judge's score for the 6 bands and you put them in the order of 1 through 6. You assign the highest score as 1, the second highest as 2, and you go right down until you meet 6. Mm-hmm. Then you add up those numbers for each band, and the band with the lowest total is the winner. There is no ties. There is no 0.5s. The result will be that the focus would be on each judge placing the bands relatively to each other. And all 5 judges' rank system will be equally weighed. What do you think about that?
That sounds like a good idea. You know why it sounds like a good idea? Because there is where you could get a master score from all the judges.
Yeah.
And one could see how some judges rank some bands and all that. You could see it a kind of...
It has no ties, eh? It has no ties, Mr. Ali, Dr. Tanya, it has no ties.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Gentlemen, I've just introduced on the line Dr. Sir Ray Holman. That's how I call him, right? Dr. Sir Ray Holman. Ray, how are you good, my brother?
Dr. Holman.
Well, I'm doing okay. And you all at the studio there having fun?
So
Ray.
Mr.
Yes, I'm hearing you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing you.
Yeah, we hear you.
Right. Good. Okay, all right.
Dr. Holman, welcome to the program. We invited you. We wanted to hear your voice. I know you were there on Saturday for the grand finale.
Yes.
What we experienced on the night was unique to our experience in the sense that we had for the third occasion in 61 years of Panorama tie in terms of two bands sharing honors. The first would have been 1971 with Starlift and Harmonites. You know that more than any one of us here because you were the arranger for Starlift. Tell us your experience having tied on that night. How did you feel in terms of the judges concluding that these bands were tied on points and therefore has to share the title? Do you think that there's an issue in the judging of Panorama that needs to be addressed to avoid ties moving forward?
Well, the only way you could avoid that is if the judges give placings instead of points. You know, like some systems you rate the bands according to placing. So you have X band first, you have X band, another band third, you know. So in that case, you have no ties. That's the only way to avoid it. But once you have a system where people tallying, it's quite normal that some people could 3 judges on your tallying. There's a chance that there could be a tie. It doesn't happen all the time we talk, but it happens.
As I just explained, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. When the judges finish, do their the marking of each band.
Yes.
You use it by rank. Instead of you adding the 88 and the 89 and the 90 and you get the total.
Yes.
And you might have a next band. Yeah, you do it by rank.
Yes. So that might avoid. Then the judges have to get together and agree with the ranks, the ranking.
Yeah.
So in any event you have the possibility of disagreement, and maybe the points might be the easier way because in ranking you're thinking, see, it was a 3, but then it's 5 judges, so you don't have any high to come out and low to come out. That's an advantage of the ranking.
And there's no alternate. Everybody judges.
Yes.
I want to ask our guests. Good day, Dr. Holman. How are you? I want to ask our guests about the number of judges on the panel. So it was 5 judges this year, and if I'm not mistaken, the top score and the lowest score are eliminated. So it's an aggregate of 3 judges. Is that enough for Panorama?
Well, I don't see that you need more. If you have 5 competent people, and I use the word competent as the key word. You know, if you have 5 competent people, I don't think you need more than that. I mean, you're just adding other opinions, and some of them might be uninformed. Some, but judging is not an easy task. It's a difficult task.
It's a very difficult task. But if you only have 3, 2 of them might be incompetent.
You hear a band play in first position, then you have another one playing 7th. You can't remember exactly how the first band played, and you already handed in your scores. You have to hand the scores in after each band performs. So what I do when I'm adjudicating, I kind of mark. I have another sheet that I mark. So band number 1, I have what I beat them, right? band number 2, I have what I give them. And if I see that a band lower down is better than those, well, I can't adjust the one on top, but I adjust the one below. The more recent band, I could bump it up a little bit. If I see it needs to be, in relation to how the first band before them sounded. But you have to have experience, and you have to have a good knowledge of music and of the instrument to be confident in what you're doing. It can be done.
Now, okay, so thank you for raising that point, and
the tie. You can't give a guarantee that a tie would be avoided. There's no way to do that. The ranking is the only way to avoid it.
No, not
Dr. Holman, thank you for raising this point. And
I want to ask, if I judge, how will I know if I give the highest point or the lowest point and they take it on my point?
You don't know.
That is exactly the point. That is exactly the point I wanted to make, because the highest score and the lowest score are eliminated. Now, when I judged, there was no briefing by Pantrinbago before the competition started. So if you tend to be a lenient judge, giving relatively high marks, and if you are consistent with your marking, as Dr. Holman said, the score sheet is taken away from you, so you can't go back and change a mark once the band you've handed in that score sheet. That means all your points are going to be on the high side, and conversely, if you're a tough judge, all your points are going to be on the low end of the scale. So what I had suggested to Pantrinbago, and this was many years ago when I was doing it, we need to have a briefing to set a benchmark. If we heard this band, play us a recording. If we heard this band, what mark would we give this band? So everybody is kind of calibrated on the same scale, because with the elimination of the top score and the lowest.
That is very important. You must have like a bench, something like that as a guide. So therefore you sort of avoid somebody excessively high and all his marks going out, or someone excessively low and all their marks going out. It's a tricky business, You just have to spend a little more time. I think not enough time is spent in briefing on discussing how we're going to go about this, But it's not a piece of cake.
But there is 10 months before tune-up Panorama. Between it Panorama, 10 months.
The judges aren't selected 10 months in advance.
Right. So, all right.
Dr. Holman, how do you feel about an arranger who would have competed at a Panorama level in previous years, who's no longer attached to a band, sitting amongst the panel and adjudicating on a final night? Do you think that would give strength to a result in terms of bringing something to the table, in making a decision that will be consistent with what one expects of a Panorama song? In other words, someone like yourself, let me put it that way. If you are adjudicating and you having been there already, competed for a time period, let's say 10, 15 years, you were there actively involved. If you're sitting there, you may be in a better position to adjudicate a song or to make a decision in terms of points awarded than someone who just has a theoretical basis or theoretical background in steel band music. How do you feel about that?
Well, of course, if you have working knowledge of it and you are competent, you should have an advantage over somebody who is not experienced. But then the question also comes, can you eliminate bias? I mean, I am not biased in any way. If I judge, I have doesn't matter the name of the band, the arranger. But not everybody can say that. I mean, some of us are stronger than others. That is just human nature, so it might be best to avoid it, to eliminate bias. You know what I'm saying?
Farid, I heard you talk about say something from a Panorama song. Could you what the first thing I gotta know is what is a Panorama song or a piece of arrangement? Is that a Panorama song or a piece of arrangement for Panorama? What are you doing? I don't know. Anybody could help me with that? What's a Panorama song or Panorama arrangement or a song composed for Panorama or what?
I'm not a musician here.
What I think?
Yeah.
Well,
You know, some people feel like a pan song.
Well, I do not have to define what is a pan song, what is not a pan song. I hear a piece of music, it is calypso.
Yes.
I'm not doing any further to see if it's a pan song or not a pan song. That doesn't concern me.
Yeah. Right. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Dr. Allman, you would have been in the business for quite some time. How do you feel when it is you attend the Panorama show and you observe the use of pyrotechnics, confetti, puppets, drama, theater, as part of a band's presentation? Do you think it's a distraction away from the music? And you can answer the question also in the context of you would have won 2 titles. Did you incorporate that sort of presentation when you won in 68 and 71, I believe?
No, we didn't do that. But I don't think there's anything wrong in if somebody wants to have some pyrotechnics. The judges are not judging that, The judges are supposed to judge the music they're listening to. So whatever pyrotechnics you have, that is your business. If I'm judging the music you're playing. You can have as many pyrotechnics as you want. It's not influencing me, but that's just me. I think most judges would probably not be unduly influenced by that at all.
Right.
You're not supposed to be influenced by anything extraneous to the actual music coming out of the steel drums on the stage. That's what it's supposed to be.
I'm going to ask a question that is somewhat a little off topic, but I want to ask you because I know you're only with us for a few minutes. You have another commitment. I observed you in Renegade Spaniard on the week building into the finale. You would have made observations as to how Duvon Stewart conducts or choreographs the band and how he imparts his ideas to the orchestra. You would have also made observations as to how he interacts with those who attend the yard, meaning the patrons, the pan lovers. What is your view in terms of his style? Are you the kind of arranger, or were you the kind of arranger that encouraged audience participation in terms of, you have the, if the song allows for the audience to join in and sing a part of the chorus, you do that? Or Duvon clearly has his own style and his own methodology, and we saw that at the finale where he emerged from within the band during the performance, and with that the crowd reacted. He had an impact. How do you feel about the young arrangers now? And I'm using Duvon as an example in terms of how they interact with the orchestra and how they interact with the crowd and the effect it has been having, because we see it at the Panorama where he executed the same sort of dynamic on stage. Do you think that's healthy for the growth and development in terms of incorporating the players, the audience, and building a vibe or building a connection with players and the crowd?
Well, I don't see it as being unhealthy or healthy. I'm seeing it as someone who has the confidence and the personality to want to engage the audience. Again, it has nothing to do with the judging of the music. If I'm judging, one can give a speech, 5, 10, 2 minutes on our speeches. Does not affect me. he's talking about his music, fine. But he's not influencing me when I hear it. So I don't see it's a bad thing. You know, if somebody wants to explain what he has done, fine. If you want to, and he's a very intelligent person, so he knows what he's doing. I don't think that is giving him any advantage, because as it has turned out, with all of that talking, he didn't win. Did he win the semi-final? I think he won the semi-final, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, by 1 point.
And so that can't be any advantage. When he gives us a good playing band, he's on the top of it. It made no difference whatsoever. Otherwise, it would have been a runaway win in the semi-final, and in the final it would be a runaway, because it makes no difference.
Tell me something, Dr. Holborn. If you were asked to provide a list of competent, I like that word that you're using, competent adjudicators, how would you go about that process?
Well, years ago, I advised Panshin Baker to have anyone desiring of being a judge to produce the CV of what they have done musically.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't mind. I don't care what your name is. You have to provide something.
Yeah.
That you are worthy of being a judge.
Yeah.
Especially a steel pan.
Especially a steel pan. So to me, that is basic. A basic requirement of selecting somebody to adjudicate a panorama. Or any, whether it's college. So you have to show me what, I mean, you must have a working knowledge of the art you're going to judge.
Yeah.
You must have achieved something over the course of your lifetime. You must have produced something. You must have assisted in the production of something. But to just pick somebody off the street and say, come and judge Panorama, and that, I'll take you back to the first years of Panorama. I remember that people used to be selected because you're writing an article in a newspaper. You could be selected to judge Panorama. It had nothing to do with your musical training or your musical ability or your musical output. Nothing of the sort. Now I think they try to get people who are quote-unquote musicians. Now someone may have a qualification in music. Right? That doesn't make him a musician, eh?
Hey.
That means he can read and write music. Sorry?
I mentioned that to them just now.
Yes, I think that's important. It doesn't mean that you are qualified. It means that you can read and write. It doesn't mean that you're a creative musician, or that you have knowledge of how an arrangement is structured, or the trends of arranging. It just means that you can read and write music. Doesn't mean you have good hearing. Doesn't mean you have good taste.
Sometimes I just ask myself the same question. If some of these judges that have been selected to judge Panorama can one day be given the assignment to go by a band or do some work with a band and let us the arranger hear what they could do.
Now I say they have 10 months between panoramas. Get them some training. I had a musician at the time. He used to play trombone with me at Charlie's Roots. Yeah. And I see him tune up in Exodus. He had to judge me a panorama tune. And I used him here in the studio and all. Yeah. But he was a judge.
These are the comical things, a lot of it is sheer comedy, But when you sometimes I look at the scores and like I have judged with some people out of Trinidad, of course. I never judge Panama here, and I don't want to do it because you make enemies because people are not very objective. They just if you don't put what they want, they get very upset, and I don't think I need that. But I have judged with people, and I I think some people just don't know what they're doing. Sad to see. I once went to adjudicate, and I had agreed to do it in London. When I saw the panel, I refused. I didn't do it. I said, I totally told them, I said, next year if you get proper people, I'll do it. And they got proper people, and I did it. I'm not going to put my neck on the line with people who I don't have confidence. I don't know anything about them. I never heard about them musically. So I'm not doing that. I'm very careful about my reputation.
Are we going to be stuck with the problem of getting the right adjudicators for the future?
Well, I think that is a punch and bigo thing. Somebody had put a punch and bigo that what Ray's suggestion is very good. And I would suggest that. Have them, you have 10 months, let's train them. Let's, and not, let me see you produce something.
Dr. Allman, are you of the view that the judging panel should be addressed on a year-to-year basis in the context of not having a particular individual or any individual sit in consecutive years? Let me say it another way. If you have the same panel every year, then there's the likelihood that preference could weigh on the minds of a particular judge. Meaning, if I have a preference to a band and I prefer a particular band, I like their music personally, I may not be able to detach myself from my personal tastes and what I'm hearing. Are you of the view that the judges panel should be rotated? In other words, change the judges up on a year-to-year basis and perhaps rotate. And that may lend itself to having a more balanced result. And when I say result, I don't mean the final result. I mean balanced approach to marking.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. The only thing is that if you have a very competent judge, and you want to rotate, you have to choose people who are as competent as him.
Yeah.
You're not rotating for the sake of rotating only. All right, that's a good idea, but then the persons who you're rotating must be of similar quality. I don't know how many people we have here who are still alive, who know about the instrument and good musicians, who can do it. That's the problem, it's a paucity of people who have the skill, and who are still okay in their minds, because, sometimes people getting on in age, you get dementia, your brain is not as alert as it was, and it's a difficult thing to sit down and listen to so many bands. I don't know how they do it. By the eighth band, I stopped. I couldn't concentrate. On Saturday night, it kind of wore me out a bit. I'm suggesting too that the final be less than 10. 8 bands is more than enough to select the cream of the. I don't think we need 10 and 12 bands. When Panorama was first started, and for a lot of years it was 7 bands, the cream of the crop in the final, and 7 Calypsonians, and you still had the mass, and the show was a dynamite show. I don't see any 12, and then you have a tie, and you're going on to, after it got sort of, I got a little bored, and then most of the bands kind of playing the same. So it's kind of, a guy from Jamaica was here today, and he was saying that, he got bored after. It keeps hearing, and the sound in the grandstand is awful. I hope the judges not hearing what I'm hearing. The sound, it doesn't reflect. I mean, if I want to hear a steel band, I go outside. I go in the road when I go in the Panyard, or go in the road, or go in the track. But the stage is the worst place to hear the steel band.
So let me ask you a question, Dr. Holman. Is it that you're telling me when bands go on the stage for Panorama, the judges are being taken the audio from the speakers to judge the bands?
Well, I think they are hearing some of it natural and some from the speakers. Because the speakers are very distorted and it distorts the music. But I was not sitting immediately in line with the judges, so that's hard for me to see. But the miking is another thing. I have spoken to the engineers over the years, the same, and they all say too many fans on the stage, to get a proper mic. It's too much overtone, and then plus the players who hit in the pan above us is in intensity. It just adds to the verb. It just makes it worse. It's not a clean, nice song. I'll tell you, when I attended the World Steel Band Festival, where the numbers were 70 and lower, it sounded better than all the other years, and the numbers were high. There's more control. You heard clearer. You heard every section in the band. No, you can't hear now. Maybe the judges are hearing, but from some of the results, I think some are not really hearing. Over the years, I'm not speaking about this in particular. A lot of the nice work is lost. And I think it maybe they're getting a feed from the speakers, because it's so glaring. I don't know whether the ceiling is contributing to that. It was noisy. I don't think I'll go back.
I don't need two mics. I don't need what do you do? Put a mic by the drum set. Put two mic in front of the front line, and they go on and that's the mic in.
No. Let me interject here. I do work for Function Breaker as an announcer, where they have us sitting is just a little a couple of feet, let's say about 10 or 15 feet away from the judges. So we are probably almost in line. Now the sound system, they try their best, but to get that total sound, they will have to start miking all within the band.
They don't have the time to do that.
They don't have the time to do that, and they are not equipped with the amount of microphones to do that. To wire all these microphones in and out of the band, it's probably difficult. So they surround the band with microphones. They will have microphones to pick up the bass, the rhythm sections. Part of the middle might be by the mic, but like Dr. Ray is saying, you don't get the total sound from like every section of the band. It resonates into the grandstand. But there are sometimes you don't get the fullness of the band. Some bands will sound more powerful than some will sound lighter than some. Even when you listen to the playback of the recordings of the Panorama, you can hear that a lot of the band's instruments weren't or are not identifiable.
Right.
Definitely. Now, with all this big budget and all these millions, you don't think some of it could be devoted towards the arrangers and the composers and the players getting a just due? They practice night after night. They're entitled to having a proper sound.
That's right.
To spend money on that.
I agree.
It's a disservice that they're doing to the musicians.
Because I the BDIC but I could say Yochi and Anipa. They hurry and put two mic by the drum set and by the band setting up. And that's it. Some bands have different instruments.
Yes.
So I want to make a suggestion. So I hear what you're saying, and I think it is a real problem about the sound to the judges coming both through the speakers and natural sound. Now, even if we had the time and the equipment to mic every section of the band, then the exact placement of the microphone is going to affect the product. So why not have miking at all? I mean, a steel band with 130 players is very loud. Why even bother to mic it?
They could have overhead.
Then every band is on equal footing. What do you mean you have?
Overhead mic like in the
Yeah, but you see, okay, then it... Okay, but Dr. Goddard, the overhead mic is now dependent on the mic operator operating that boom and where they place that mic. That mic could be 1 foot to the left and it'll be very different. So my suggestion is no miking at all. We're just hearing natural sound. It's loud enough.
I agree with you, Doctor. I agree with you, Dr. Tan.
Yes, I mean,
I agree with you.
If the song will get... Now, you see, the thing is, it's not only the judges, it's people who are way up in the grandstand and in the north stand. So it's really, it is a problem. I don't know how it's going to be sound. I know to solve it, they have to spend a lot of money.
No, they have the people who involved in the song system. They had to start meetings with them, and they had to realize what it, because they have the equipment. All the equipment will be in the savannah during the carnival time. They have the equipment. Just the place. The problem is placing the mic properly. So let's say you go to Agarat or whoever doing the song and thing, and they have meetings. They don't interact with nobody. They just know they have in Panorama tomorrow. They set up the mic and that is it. They have no meetings with them.
Right.
I
want to add one thing. That when I was there, one of the bands, one of the more successful bands in competition there, they played a passage. I think that they didn't have any, maybe the drummer dropped out or a lot of the percussion dropped out. And it was so clear. I was amazed at how clear and beautiful it sounded. So I don't think there was anything wrong with the mics they had then. At that point, it was just the volume. It was just, so I come back again to what the engineer, it's just too many pans on the stage because the players, when I heard that, it was played it was not loud. And they had no destructive, there was nothing competing with the pans. And it sounded clear and beautiful. I think if I could go and hear it again, I could probably identify the band and the passage and say, this is what it could sound like. This is what it could sound like. Because another problem too is the banging of the instruments. No matter what mics you put in, you're banging the instruments. It's not going to sound clear. All the overtone and over a certain amount of intensity, it's noise you're getting.
Really?
And band, they just sound noisy.
Now everybody jumping up at the play. Is that jump up thing to play piano or no?
Nonsense.
And now
all of that is nonsense. And they are teaching the young kids to do that.
Yeah.
So they're learning the wrong way.
That jump up thing.
They're striking the pan. They're not learning how to play the pan. You have to teach them the right way, and it's just getting worse and worse. It's just getting worse and worse. One band played there, and it was so, they touched the pan so beautifully. I don't want to call any names. Touched the pan so beautifully that you kind of heard, you heard a lot more of the orchestra than in most of the other bands. Just playing too loud. And jumping up, as you said, there, and making a sort of noise.
Jump up thing.
It's time we grow up. It's time that we grow up. They say this is the Mecca. You really have to do a lot more to mention it as the Mecca. That is my opinion.
Dr. Hallman, are you of the view, and Mr. Stewart, you can add your view too. Are you of the view that the Savannah may have outlived its usefulness, and that a proper venue or a different venue that caters for the needs of the things that you all are highlighting ought to be created now in order to accommodate an orchestra plus?
I wouldn't say no, but as I told you before, on the international panorama, it was much clearer. So I think the volume, the number of instruments has something to do with it. 125 on a stage plus percussion and iron. That's a lot of sound, and it's difficult to control unless they play softly. I don't care where you go. You put those on the stage to play.
Dr. Hallman, back in the day when you was arranging for bands like started in the 70s and stuff like that, what was the amount of numbers or number of players that you had in your band when you was arranging back in the day?
I don't think we had more than 95.
More than 95. Because the ICP panorama was like about the maximum was like about 60. And the clarity was very, very, very clear. Very, very, very clear.
Very, very clear.
And nice. And
I recommended that as the limit. I have continually been recommended the limit to be no more than 65, 70 players. That's how I hear it. I'm like a lone voice in the limit.
Will that instigate, if that's the word I should use, to the dismantling of categories?
Well, it's a bit small band and medium band.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit small band and medium. I don't know who came up with that in the first place. Small band, medium.
Panorama is, you have the Panorama champions, and so that would off. So everybody would have a fair chance. You can't one band have 130 and another band with 65. It's difficult to really have them with the same. It's unequal. So I think bring the numbers down and let everybody. There are some bands that play very well, but because they don't have the power. But then again, too, if you have a smaller number and you're playing good music, you should be heard even better than some of the larger bands. So I might be contradicting myself there. Because a small, I remember once that we played it when I was in Starlight. We 1970, I think we had a tune called Panorama. We had about 95 players. Desperados came with 60 players and won comfortably. Because the band sounded better. We had we might have had a better piece or some more vibrant piece, but they won because of the clarity and the playing. So you don't need a whole 100 players to sound good if you're a good arranger. Why you need all of that? Why you need that?
Just Samaru went to a festival with how many people? 7 people.
Yes. Quite correct. Quite
7 people in a festival.
We're trying to cut down. We're trying to get bigger.
Yeah.
No?
No, well, we want to say plenty people playing, plenty children playing pan and plenty this and playing pan. So you want to facilitate them.
Everybody's privy to their own opinion, but as I keep saying it, we're not really evolving much as a fraternity to see this instrument flourish the way how it was set up from the inception going forward. I believe we dominantly being short-sighted, short-minded in bringing new ideas and bringing new things to the forefront for the instrument to be at a better place, So if by lessening the numbers from 120 to 60 or 75 players for the large band category, or make everything across the board for everybody, again is a business now for the government, business for them. So you had to please them. So we never really take time to have this, like Dr. Holman after the carnival season. He's still living. He's a living legend in the game. You have Dr. Pelham Goddard here still. These guys are, I believe these gentlemen will be open to having symposiums and workshops and master classes for the individuals who coming up in the game to hear stories and to voice their questions, to hear what goes about doing something like this. Be very, very careful, because not everybody will like your opinions and like your views. You know what I'm saying? So some bands have an advantage and some have a disadvantage. For example, like Skiffle. Skiffle is one of the only bands that use G pan, and that pan is very loud and powerful compared to Renegades using the normal 55-gallon.
Dr. Holman, Dr. Goddard, Mr.
You could call me Dr. Stewart.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes, sir.
You all clearly, Duval, you've won 4 Panorama titles. Dr. Goddard, you've done the same.
Yeah.
Dr. Holman, your track record speaks for itself in terms of your body of work, and you span time with that. Collectively, have you all ever had discussions, or does Pan Trinbago invite your opinions when they're doing their things in terms of putting together a panorama, or what ideas can come from senior people like yourself and winners like yourself, Duvon?
I would say sometimes they do ask. Sometimes they do ask. They do ask. I'm being honest with you. Sometimes they do ask. but it only happens like when they have their meetings within the organization, which is not fully the full membership, but just 2 representatives per bands, and I never really see where they came together to invite their arrangers or invite the tuners to come to a discussion for us to iron out some things, to hear our ideas, to see what is taking place, what we could do to better, not just Panorama, but pan holistically throughout, to see what we could do with it better. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They do take ideas, and sometimes they don't. So it's a give and take on my end.
Dr. Allman, what was it like in your time when in the 68 and 71? Did the Pansion Big at that time consult your band, consult bands generally?
I don't remember any consultation. What's the communication I had with Pansion Big over the years is giving them advice. They didn't ask it, but I gave them advice on having tuners trained, because the time will come when the top tuners die, must have people to take over. Have them trained, have tuners and arrangers trained. And I don't think it was once one of them was coming to us. He said, Mr. Honorable, we doing that, and we training tuners. I said, well, who are the tuners training? Who are the trainers? They call some names I never heard the names before. I said, well, listen, let me tell you something. If you want to train people, get the best. Let them be trained by the best, not by some unknown. Unknown. No. Have the best tuners. I know it's a problem because finance may be one, but you have to have them trained by the best. You agree with that?
100%.
Yeah, thank you. So that my communication was about that, and also about getting judges to submit the CV. But they never really got back to me on anything. Maybe they found I was too frank. I wasn't playing any games at the because I feel it. If you don't want to do that, well, that's up to you. I tell you once, I tell you twice, I tell you 3 times, and that means you like it so. I can't tell you what to like and what not to like. What I can do is to tell you what's best for the instrument and for the players and for the arrangers and the composers, what is fair to them. Yeah. And if you refuse to do anything about it, I cannot force you.
I see they have a education officer who come on TV while the band. Well, I watching TV. He come on the band to talk after a band play, but nothing about music. All he talks about is who we know in a band. He have no sense of, like you talk about, they hear something in the music that was very interesting. The cello did this, the second band did that, the tenor strong, very bright, and so on. No, you know Julie, you know this one, you know that one, you know Pelangoda.
But
I need education minister, education officer in Pansion Bago. What can he educate people about? He might be know Emmanuel Riley. If you ask him Emmanuel Riley, he might know who is that.
But I think it would be advisable that Pansion Bago have a consultating team with them when it comes to the growth, as Duvon said, because it's not merely about Panorama. It's about bringing the instrument to a level as how we have Yamaha and those kind of names attached to the instruments. We should be striving to reach that kind of levels. And of course, we should be opting for having the best produced sound of these bands. I know why they have the categories, so that it's a means of allowing bands to have a share in the pie, across the board. But back in the days, all bands competed and the best will be chosen. But I have no problem with the category. But I think across the board, the intention and the projection should be to make pan the greatest instrument ever invented by creating a sound that can be acceptable across the globe, because there are people who know about music that would have problems in hearing a distorted steel orchestra. You know, it's
Of course,
about time we get to that.
it sounds unprofessional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds unprofessional. You want to hear the pan in a true.
But as I said before, is any the other talk to the people who they given the job to do the song for the Savannah, especially in Panorama. You know that Callisto show? You know, a Callisto show, all they wanted the microphone for the singer to sing, and the band or whatever back them up. They put some background vocals. But this is a steel orchestra with 125 people.
But I was again at the Savannah Saturday night. A lot of people was in the grandstand said that band number one was sounding very, very distorted. They didn't like how the band sung and stuff like that. And the thing about it for me, these events like the Calypso Monarch and stuff like that, they do a sound check, they do a line check to make sure that everything is in a gear. Okay, Dr. Harman raised the point about many bands competed in the night. 8 is enough. Why don't you have like this small band, champion band come back on the final night just to provide that sense of
sound
check.
Yeah.
The medium pan band, or you know, and then after you start band number one, and to avoid the song that comes out from band number one, because it was terrible. It was very terrible at times. Just listening to the bands and then over the PA system and how distorted they song and how muddy and heavy they song, you know. So that's why I was asking if the judges really listen to the band live or they listen to the band through the PA system. Because sometimes you might set up a microphone at band number one and put somebody the microphones around by the bases. But when you start off this, when the band start the song, actually, and you're listening from the speaker, that's when the song engineers start up and down.
Remember when they put microphones, by any instrument, you had to go back on the board while the band playing, you know.
Yeah.
They bring down this and bring down that while the band playing, you know what, just on the board. There's a disadvantage to the band.
Well, I agree with what Dr. Tanyuk said, that we should allow the bands to play without the microphones. But I know
I agree with that too.
It's a time when you know we have the media would like to stream the music via FM or online or whatever, and they need some sort of a sound to do that. So something must be arranged to capture the sound from a natural point where the band is mic'd, and we can share it.
So Mr. McIntyre,
yeah, Bluetooth. Let a band play Bluetooth for the speakers.
Yes, with Dr. Tanya.
No. So so you make a good point. Now, of course, you need to stream for television, radio, and on the internet. But the microphones could be just for the stream, not being played through the speakers at the Savannah.
I agree.
So everybody who's at the Savannah, and most importantly, the judges, are hearing the natural sound. Therefore, the band leaders can arrange their pans to maximize the sound as they see fit. If you have microphones, you are now dependent on the sound technicians where they place those microphones, and given the time between bands and the rush to set up, they may not place it exactly in the same position for all bands, and all bands are not arranged the same way.
That's right.
So if you use microphones, then you could imagine a band manager is going to come to you and say, I want you to put a mic next to these cellos. I want you to put another mic next to the engine room. And then what happens? So you can stream, you can, just like when we do classical orchestras, there are mics for a live performance, but the mics are only for the recording or for the stream. The mics are not being fed into the hall. What the audience hears is the natural sound.
Yes, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So you see, much more time and thought has to go into it.
Yeah.
You can't have a without a sound check.
That's right.
Nobody really sound check. You know?
Yeah. Not even parties. They don't even operate parties like that. The DJs and their sound check before they start to play.
Before
Exactly.
the day before the song. Yeah,
Can't be done.
That's right. That's right.
And you know, I just want to add, this is a very interesting topic. I just want to add to that. And I've written about this in the past, not about Panorama, but miking of concerts that I go to. So when you relegate your sound to a sound engineer, that sound engineer might think, oh, I need to hear more bass guitar. And they put up the mic on the bass guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in the audience, I'm thinking that bass guitar is already so loud. While we're not even hearing the vocalist, we're hearing the bass guitar more because that particular sound engineer feels we need to hear more of the bass guitar. So the point is that by having miking, you are relegating your artistic control to somebody else. You do all this work in the panyard, and then on the night of the competition, you have relegated artistic control to somebody else who does not know the tune as well as you know it.
One of the best steel pan events that I have been to in my life, where miking is concerned and playing is concerned together, was Andy Norrell and the WDR big band in Con alongside Relator.
Yeah.
He has a natural sense of microphone placing, types of microphones. They study these things big time. And we back here, when we go to do concerts, conventional concerts with the instrument, we tend to deal with some aggressive stage managers and stage microphone guys and stuff like that. And again, as you say, you know, everybody know what they want, where they want to place a mic, and it's so aggressive at times when you the listener listen back to it. But if you really take a time to listen to that recording that was done by Andy Norrell, it makes you appreciate the instrument very, very much.
Plus he had brass, He had brass with the
too. And he had vocal too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he managed all of this thing together, you know, in a big auditorium.
Yeah.
Auditorium, you know? Okay.
Yeah. So I think going back to the judges, I think Pan St. Diego should start to have some kind of symposium or something to with people, teach them how to what to look for Panorama or the music, pan music in fact. You know?
It's difficult to understand that we have.
Why is that men like you, Dr. Holman and Dr. Goddard, the elders that in the game, why don't you all go to Pantry Baker and put it out to them? Let them know that you want to have a word with the judges that are out there.
I quite agree. I agree with you there, Duvon. It's about time, because we can't allow these guys to just aid and not contribute to the development of this thing.
Go to them, because we doing this from a genuine place. And you, the Grandmaster, and Dr. Holman, and who's still living in the game, could yet still come and say, well, okay, we want to talk to Pantry Bago to have these judges. You sit in the audience and have us on the table, and we be the speakers of this event here. You ask the questions. That's what I'm saying.
You know, at that time I offer the judges to come in the studio and produce something right here. I wasn't charging them no studio time, anything like that. I was giving them the studio to let them here but produce something. You know. But you see, if I go to them, they might figure it's some kind of you know, it does feel funny. Somebody who not active in
that's the next thing to her.
Right.
I think that's the biggest problem.
Mr. Holman, Dr. Holman might be more in than me to go to them. But they might say, God, Pelham, you're still in the race. So why why you coming to talk to me out church?
But I think it makes complete sense that
Yeah.
we utilize the talents and the prowess of people like Dr. Hallman. And there are others. There are others. There might,
Even Dr. Sharp too, man. He could, man. This man
yeah.
is,
Look, I think
you
what?
know.
Mola Albino Di Koto, is she still alive?
Yeah, she's still alive. Yeah.
I think she's still alive. She was the big, she is our senior as soon as far as judging. They was Savoy Seal Orchestra, you know. You know.
Yeah,
And
I think
she know a lot of music and stuff. She know what to do.
yes,
So
I
she
think
could kind of influence.
we have the icons and the grandmasters, like Duvon said, and we should have them be
Yeah.
part of the development of steel ball in general.
Even go back out to the US and bring back home Dr. Dawn Batson. That woman.
Right.
That woman
Right.
is, yo, Dr. Dawn Batson, man. You listen to this woman speak and how things supposed to be going forward. A lot of our problems that we face here is the continuity of what we start with.
Yeah.
And that's a gem, man. Let's listen to this woman. Bring her back. Let her talk to us, give us some advice, because these people out in the US doing things so powerful with this instrument here. When they go out there, they'll hold their head and ball,
Leon Teague.
You know what I'm saying? I've been to Morganstone, which part Dr. Ellie Manette was living when he was alive, building pans and see the progress of the instrument out there. There are a lot of workshops and masterclass happening out in North America, mainly in the Midwest, with Tom Miller and Dr. Eugene Novotny and Dr. Jim Munzer right out. I met these guys, and the things that they're doing out there with instrument, the craft of it, the arranging, the composing, the pan building, the engineering side. These guys are just doing phenomenal things out with instrument. You know what I'm saying? And they do it in such a way that they have it globally as a workshop like the expo. And I don't even know if anybody from Trinidad and Tobago, from Pan Tobago, goes out to these events to see what happens on a reel out in the US. I don't even talk about Europe. They have it locked, man. They have this thing locked. Up to now, we don't even have a good chrome factory here in Trinidad and Tobago to even chrome our instruments here. The big company Midco that operates out of Diego Martin, they buy the drums in Japan, ship to Trinidad and Tobago. They make it in Trinidad and Tobago, and they ship the pans out to Ohio, to Chrome, to come back to sell.
Boy, oh boy.
All these little spices and things that happen, as I say, man, it's a government business. And if the government of Trinidad and Tobago does not dispense funds to the NCC/Pan Tobago to hold their events, none of the groups never do anything sustainably by themselves. None. We have lost World Steel Pan Music Festival. We have lost all these events where Steel Pan is concerned. And the only thing that predominantly stands tall is Panorama. And if we continue in this way, we can lose it sometime too. We can lose it sometime too. And that's the reality of it, We need to preserve and appreciate the opinions that everybody have at the end of the day. Transparency is key. Transparency is key. You know what I'm saying?
Gentlemen, we have 2 more minutes left. Duvon, tell us what to expect from you in the next few months. What are your plans now that?
Well, as long as I have life, health, and strength, I am going on my usual travels to different continents to continue the gospel of steel pan music by doing master classes, workshops, performances in multiple universities. For example, I go back out to California to the Stanford University, and I go up to do some high schools in San Francisco. Out in the UK, I do a lot of music conservatoires out there, alongside in France, in France also too. So I'm more involved in the educational side of my steel pan journey right now, because I believe that we're not really educating people that much about it and teaching them the right things about it. And I believe that that this is one of my callings also too. So I go about doing master classes and lectures now and again performances here and there, but I more do the master classes and the workshops, and which really entails of okay, BPTT Renegades came first. My music has been transcribed. I have it as documented, and some students may call to have a copy of it, and I go to the school and I explain how I go about my thought process in arranging the music and scoring music, and documented it like this, so you could have a idea from me. I have a great idea of that because I learned a lot of that from Mr. Andy Norrell. I believe he's one of the only few steel pan arrangers out there that has his music documented so that he could go from country to country and do what he's doing. So I work with BPTT Renegades also as a musical director. Again, the band have some tours coming up for the year. I think we have a Germany on stream. We have a USA on stream. A Brazil, I believe we have on stream. So I'll be working to put some music together, and I want to focus some more on some original content, because I believe that the instrument we are advertising too much cover version of music. So there's
Dr. Almond, I think we're getting some feedback on your end there. We're getting some feedback from Dr. Almond's end. I think
we got to pull the curtains down. Any final words, Dr. Tanyuk, Dr. Ray Holman? Yes, I know. I certainly hope that you go knocking on the doors of Trinbago to see if we can take this to another level. It's about time, based on what Duvon said there on his tours. You can just imagine what happens in these other countries as compared to the Mecca where we own it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the world is getting smaller.
Yeah.
And continue with the pan. Yeah. I've been to 49 states.
Yeah,
no, man.
Was Alabama.
Yeah.
I've been east west now, from Alaska to Maine, from down to Maui, Hawaii, all over. I can't do that anymore. I think that's problem.
Well, we need your. We need your advocacy. We need your advocacy to help it go to another level right here in Trinidad. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Holman. Fareed.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for making yourselves available. Duvon, if I could ask one last question that you could answer very quickly. Do you plan to retire from Panorama in Trinidad and Tobago and concentrate on your foreign adventures? Or we could expect that you'll be indefinitely with us?
I never laughed before that.
Fareed, Panorama is only 2 months.
You never know, man.
You never know. That he's too young to retire.
That's
right. I could retire. I could retire already.
No.
As long as I have life, I'll continue doing what I have to do.
That's right. Thank you so very much. I thank you so very much. Yes.
Let me should retire when he has nothing more to say.
Yeah. Could you repeat that?
Yeah.
I said he should retire when he has nothing more to say. You know, some people speak to the speaker speaking. They speak enough for me to say.
I quite agree with you, Dr. Holman. I quite agree with you. I must say, Duvon, you have done fantastically well, and I hope that you keep motivating yourself to even improve what you have given us Saturday. I expect that. I expect Dr. Goddard to be part of the institutionalization of ideas. And Dr. Tanyuk, you play a very pivotal role in you know, being.
Well, I'm musical director, you know.
I know. I know.
I do have to go in the panel every night to pound up that thing I do.
Yeah,
I
Dr.
set up a
Tank,
tune. What
yes.
I set up a both and chorus song, and they could do it to them. I musical director after that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I in the studio doing that's what I do all the time, whole year. Calypso music,
Yes.
print out music, sell not sell, but anybody want music they could get charged from me
Mhm.
and all that for to play, you know.
Yes. And for your invaluable contribution, Dr. Tanika, I want to thank you so very much. I hope that you stay connected with us on
Okay.
Wednesday.
Duvon, we hope to hear from you again. We'll invite you again, and thank you so much. Trinidad and Tobago loves you, and we do.
Yeah, man, no problem. I appreciate it.
Dr.
Let's
Tanyuk,
Let's
let's get the last word from Dr. Tanyuk.
I just wanted to say thank you to our guests, Dr. Pelham Goddard, Mr. Duvon Stewart, and Dr. Holman. This has been a very informative discussion, and I applaud you for having the courage to say what you think, because it's important for us to have these discussions. And congratulations on the Panorama 2024. It was really great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Question before we go, Doctor. Will you go back, will you go and apply to become a judge in the
Yes. I like you, Stuart.
Did you want me to answer that question or no?
Okay, gentlemen, I've gone way over my time. I want to thank you so very much. Stay connected with us, and we'll always have these kind of discussions.
Okay.
Okay.
Blessings.
Bye. Duvon, congrats again.
Okay, folks, that's it for today's edition of Hard Talk, where we had a very in-depth conversation with the elders of the pan music and people like Duvon Stewart and Dr. Ray Holman. I surely appreciate Dr. Ray Holman's input, Fareed and Dr. Goddard. God bless you, gentlemen. Stay connected to the after work line that we call Hard Talk right here at Power 102 Digital.
Take care. Blessings.